This is part of my series called SISTA Says, just kind of talking about how we as women and women of color digest recent news, right? And one thing that's very much on my mind is the notion of safety for the women who have stepped forward as whistleblowers in relation to January 6th, right? Of course, we had the brilliant and very candid Cassidy Hutchinson, and I haven't heard very much about her lately, but I hope she's okay and safe, because a lot of these dudes that, want to get away with the things that they've done in an official capacity and kind of under the radar can be pressed and feel extremely pressed that not only did they get caught, but they got called out by a woman, especially if that woman is younger. And now we have Annika Collier Navrioli, who was working on, policy at Twitter, who has stepped forward to tell the truth about the fact that Twitter tolerated a whole series of incendiary and dangerous tweets from the former resident of the White House and the Oval Office, to the detriment and to the danger of America, democracy, Congress, certainly the certification of the election of Joe Biden was very much on the ropes in that, sort of boxing match way. And it could have gone a different way for all of us, right? And there's so many lessons to learn from what you call denouement, the way that all of this unfolded, so that we hopefully do not have this happen again. It's honestly like January 6th was like watching an episode of Homeland, that you had a whole bunch of people who had their own agenda and were not interested in living by the precepts of democracy, meaning one man, one vote, right? The whole electoral college exists as a counterpoint to the notion of one man, one vote. Let's not even factor in one woman, one vote, but you have all these crafty people sneaking around and trying to do things to have their way. Now, it did not work out, but it doesn't mean that they're not still working on it. Elon Musk and his cronies have purchased Twitter, and now we see the mess it has become. And it's a private company, but certainly Twitter has acted as a public resource, not only for sharing articles and information and opinion, but really as a lifeline of citizen journalism, right? No matter if you agree with all of the citizen journalists or not, you cannot deny that their voice and their information can be very strong and unique at a time when we need strong and unique voices. So, the layman person like myself can kind of listen and learn from all the information and come to a decision about what's real somewhere in the middle. This is what I think. You may think differently. Feel free to share your opinion in the chat. Just trying to get the lighting more right here tonight. But you think about what's gone on in the past with folks like, I don't know, Chandra Levy, and even Monica Lewinsky, women who were working in politics, who were in, sensitive positions where they would know what was true about some of the most powerful individuals and their behavior. And this can be dangerous, not because the people weren't doing the things, it's because they didn't want people to know, obviously. And we know that, a lot of men in power, people in power, do things that they don't want everyone to necessarily know about. They want the people who are also doing it to know, because then it becomes kind of like an in crowd in a club. And there are people who really do want to be in the position of keeping other people's secrets because of what they get out of it. The whole swirl of activity and people around Ghislaine Maxwell and her collaborators certainly tells us that. But, you know, again, for the regular old person, maybe you don't want to be around those people. Maybe it becomes a little bit too dangerous, right? And I'd be curious to know what kind of, like, you know, protective custody or steps have been taken to protect, you know, these brave women or non-binary people who are stepping forward to tell the truth. Now, we've certainly seen what's become of an Edward Snowden, a Julian Assange, any number of whistleblowers, Chelsea Manning, Liberty something or another. I have to look up her name. But, you know, it's not that they didn't have truth to tell, but sometimes there are laws and processes and, you know, illicit processes in place to kind of thug people out of telling the truth, because it might, if not damage the wrongdoers, it would let people know that they are wrongdoers. And people are very invested. It's like men who cheat on their wives. They're very invested in not having people know what they are truly up to. They want to be able to front for the cameras, front for the office. But, you know, there's a whole series of lower level elected wrongdoers who've been caught, but at the same time there are higher level elected wrongdoers that get away with it year after year, decade after decade. And I do believe that a lot of it is informed by who their friends are, right? How powerful their connects are, because otherwise there would be no way that they could kind of go on and on year after year doing these things, right? It's not that they're undetected, because of course it takes a village to protect, you know, people who are up to things to this extent, this number of people, this extreme kind of, let's call it recreation, you know, and people know. And, you know, there are people whose jobs it is to actually hide the stuff for them. This is the BH Cosmetics Iggy Azalea collab, Totally Snatched. It's a face palette. It's something in the vein of Nikita Dragun's face palette. It has many different tones of highlighter and contour or bronzer. The back of it reads, Totally Snatched, 6-color face palette. Talk to the hand, because this face is too fierce. Put in work with Totally Snatched 6-color face palette, an array of brighteners and contours that will get your entire beat bomb.com. Instantly define your best features with a simple sweep of these universally flattering beiges, golds, and deep tones in velvety, matte, and reflective shimmer finishes. And then it's the same discussion in French. Using our bronzer brush from yesterday, grabbing hold to a mirror, right? A hand mirror, very light, very cheap, from our friends at the dollar store. Was it Dollar General or was it Dollar King or something of that sort? But in any case, thinking about making our contour a little bit deeper. So not going to the darkest shade, going to the third deepest shade in this palette and seeing what it do, right? I hate to see people smear a lot of brown across their faces, because then it becomes a distracting line of brown. You want a tone that's different, but perhaps not super crazy dark, right? You want to go in with a light hand, something that emphasizes your nose contour, but doesn't totally obliterate it with lines that create confusion. I think that's the point. You don't want lines of confusion. And you do, in your off hours from work, you do want to experiment with different shades to see just how dark you need to go in order to have color payoff, right? Taking the same tone in the center of our very flattering eyeshadow look. And then other side, going over our contour with a lighter shade, right? We can build this up and keep going until we achieve something that looks enhanced, right? We lifted our brows with the Got To Be spiking gel. We're using a small brush, right? So many people go in with these giant fluffy brushes, and I think it can lead to imprecision, if that's a word. If it's not a word, I just created it, right? Just going over our jaw contour, our chin contour, letting our highlight chin jump forth with more power than genetics and Mother Nature have given us. Taking our jaw contour across that double chin where the fried cheesecake lives. It's always with us now. But do you agree? Do you think that these women who work in politics are putting themselves in jeopardy by doing what the subpoenas say? The subpoena says testify. But we see how much people like Mark Meadows and other characters are running away from it. So this is the lightest tone. It really doesn't seem to have done much. With the same brush, we can go even deeper, right? Not the darkest, but the fourth deepest tone right here, and see what it's giving. See what our old friend Iggy Azalea had in mind for us with these shades she claims are universally flattering. Deepening our underpainting, getting into the places where naturally we would show shadow and a hollow. I can remember the first time I got my makeup done in California, and it was a trans woman who it was almost like an inky, dark gray, if not black, cheek contour. And I was very confused because I knew very little about makeup, having, kind of worked as a suit in New York. Maybe we wore lipstick, maybe blush, but it wasn't it wasn't that serious. But learning a lot from trans women here on YouTube and other kinds of beauty gurus. That whole notion of going from day to night, going to the bar, trying to meet someone special, or meet up with someone that you already know is special, right? Is that giving us color payoff in a good way, right? Making a little V on the bottom of the nose, the suggestion being that it shortens the nose, right? Are we just getting our makeup muddy? But what we are doing is being very precise with this brush that we have recycled from our painting area. There's so much structure in the brush. I don't believe that this could have naturally been a paintbrush. I think that somehow I got this brush involved in painting, but it does not seem to me to be a native painting brush. What do you think? Right? Anyway, that's where we are. Checking this in all of our mirrors. Maybe it's time to go even a little bit deeper, right? To the fifth darkest shade in this palette, right? Slightly different undertone. Looks a little bit more caramel. Getting it right on the tip of the brush. And getting it into our contour place, right? Just so that we can determine exactly how deep of a shade do we need to use in order to enhance our contour, right? Is this palette, as cheap as it is, I believe our friends at BH Cosmetics are in some sort of chapter 11 bankruptcy, some kind of bankruptcy, and that they are in the process, if not on the verge, of being purchased by our friends at, I believe it's Makeup Revolution. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do need to kind of look more closely at makeup business. I do have ambition, one day to create my own kind of multi-use makeup product. So this is sort of part of my research for doing that, right? How can I sell makeup if I haven't studied makeup, if I don't have a strong opinion about makeup, right? It's necessary, right? Just like men watch sports, and women too, but a lot of men watch sports and keep track of different statistics, and I've watched with interest as people did their contour, and their only contour is bronzer. For me, bronzer looks, I'm already kind of yellow, orange in tone, so bronzer on my skin can look crazy orange. I am interested in a product that is specifically meant to be contour and brighteners without getting into those orangey red tones that can be a dead giveaway, right? You never want to be obvious with your makeup, right? Especially if you're dealing with people who don't, quote, like you to wear makeup, right? But we learn a lot from our friends on TikTok that like to lay down concentric figures of product and then blend them together. That, yeah, this outline that kind of hugs the hollows of the face, shrinks down the forehead. It can be, flattering. And then also getting a chance to look at what our eyeshadow and our contour is looking like on the monitor, and what the blend is looking like, and how any of these colors, right? Applying all of these colors in light layers, how it relates to our actual skin tone, right? When you work with people, when you work on television, they can tell you very quickly if you've gone in a dumb place, if you look silly, or if you've done something that, the placement is right, the color is right. If they don't take it off your face, you can kind of feel assured that you did something credible, right? Helping out the sculpt in the lid area, right? Deepening that. And then you can go throughout your home and look in all different mirrors to see, what it do. I think one of the most important refinements is taking your contour into the underside of your eyebrow, right? And then kissing that to your nose contour so that these colors aren't emerging out of nowhere. You're darkening the underside of your nose to kind of give it a lift. I have a friend who went overseas, touching the very darkest shade in this palette to artificially augment the bridge of her nose. I don't have much of a bridge of my nose, but I'm not really a fan of surgery. If I don't have to do it, I don't want to do it. But she's a brave individual. I have a friend whose mom went in this week for an upper blepharoplasty, right? A voluntary surgery. Such an interesting thing to do, to kind of put yourself under anesthesia and under duress for, it didn't look like there was a crisis, right? And I hope that it was paid for by insurance, but even as a voluntary aesthetic surgeries are dangerous. And, we would do well to remember that and try to embrace and enhance what God has given us, right? You can do something about your weight. You can use cosmetics and hair color and bronzer and all that kind of stuff. But do you really need to, remembering the example of Kanye West's late mother, Donda. People say that she was denied access to the surgery in the States because of, when you have different kinds of just even medically necessary surgeries, they check your vital signs, your, cholesterol and blood pressure and all these things that can affect your health and ability to survive during a surgery. And if you don't present as, quote, a good candidate, they're going to deny you. Now, is it wise for you to defy the opinion of medical professionals about whether or not you are sturdy enough for surgery. There are risks, right? There's risks with BBLs and facelifts and all of this jazz. I have to believe that as long as you're getting a good response from the people that you find, let's call it romantically attractive, that you wouldn't necessarily, unless it's a social climbing thing, you want to look higher class, you want to look thinner, you want to look more glamorous. But look how well these tones, I went from the lightest contour shade to the darkest. Look how well they blend and marry. And I can go in again with this kabuki brush and just give it a light but long blend, right? Just so that these colors aren't looking like lines and stripes, but they're kind of blended and marrying with the ear and the neck. I continue to see people, it just makes them look like they've done their makeup in their car. They just come to set ready for HD cameras with lines and geometric shapes on their face. And I'm gonna tell you, that's not the best thing. Oh no, you wanna blend. Check that you've contoured those natural hollows that are going to occur when you make gestures with your face and you talk. And that in that Sonia Fayaz, featured by Wayne Goss way, taking maybe not the best kabuki brush, but one that looks dramatic on camera, and just getting a good blend on, right? So that you can put your best makeup foot forward and not look crazy, right? Anything that sort of looks off or too much, just a little blend will take it, will kind of take the temperature down from red alert to more in line with, oh, enhanced in a pretty way, right? Even your shadow, as delicately placed and expert applied, you can even enhance it by just screening it down and making it look more carefully and conservatively applied. The bad thing about this brush is that the hairs do stick to your lipstick. And then you might have to go back into some kind of brow brush, because you've just the comb side, right? Just to make sure your brows are still lifting heavenward as we get into the Christmas season and we think about a higher power, the Judeo-Christian tradition blended with, some say, blended with paganism. They suggest that the Christmas tree is part of a pagan tradition. Could be, definitely worth researching. Endless social media posts and TikToks can explore that subject, right? We've gone in simply with chapstick, lip oil, right? Not altering the color of our lips. There's nothing wrong with the natural color of our lips. Sweet nectar. It's not so much a color as it is a scent, a flavor, right? You want to look kissable. Not like you're going to end up putting lip color all over someone's face or their collar. You want to look flattering. You want to look like you, right? This is not some extraordinary hairdo. We've been working like a dog all weekend, making social media posts, trying to share our opinion and our thoughts with you, the people, right? Testing out where our eye line should be. Should we look into the camera or should we look at the screen? Should we look into the camera or at the screen? It would seem like the camera is a better choice, but when we watch this back, we are going to decide with certainty where we should look once and for all. Because when I look at my own eyes, it looks like I'm looking off to the side. Maybe when I look at the camera, it's a better angle. Explorations, right? We have a thought, an opinion, and a set of questions to get across. How safe can women be when they are the whistleblowers, as opposed to the gentlemen who are off in jail? Maybe they've been on the wrong side. Maybe they've allegedly been on the side of Russia. not on the side of free speech and free press, but perhaps, and there are some questions being raised about Elania Muscratina and his motivations for, to some people's eyes, for destroying Twitter, disrupting the lives of hundreds and thousands of employees, and disrupting what has been a very useful, if misused, public resource. I'd love to know your thoughts. Is Elon Musk a hero or a villain when it comes to Twitter? It certainly seems like you can question his motives when he bought companies like SpaceX and Tesla and put his name on other people's work and pushed them out of the way. That doesn't seem very collaborative. It seems sort of robber baron. But maybe that's not surprising from someone who has garnered his family wealth from apartheid, South Africa, and emerald mines that depended on the almost slave-like labor of the local people. My opinion. Feel free to disagree. Some people think he's a genius. Other people say he just had a lot of money to play with and waste and ruin. Someone posted that, oh, look, a divorced middle-aged dad. Whose image do you think of? Is it Kanye West or is it Elon Musk? Or are they both also representing that same phrase, divorced middle-aged dad? Nothing wrong with that, but we hate to see Twitter go into the trash bin. Can it be saved? Probably not while he owns it. And maybe, just like WikiLeaks, this is all part and parcel of an agenda that is about serving not the American national interest, but another country's national interest. It will all be sorted out, and I'm certainly very happy to see people like the current president and the current leaders of Congress in place to sort it out. And the people at the Department of Justice who are getting busy, baby. Oh, a day doesn't go by without some hot news about what's going on in court with the Trump organization and all the different characters in that drama. But I'm getting hungry. I gotta go to work tomorrow. It's time to take this enhanced makeup look into the kitchen and get some calories going. But I'm really liking how this is looking. We're trying to go into a place that can be part of a very solid makeup routine. So when we gotta go and we gotta be on camera, we can get looking right on the quick. Until next time, please let me know your opinions. Tanya, Sister Says. Let me know what you think, and we'll caucus again soon. Bye.